did Charles Koch kind of give an endorsement to Hillary Clinton? Now, in an interview with ABC's This Week, one half of the Koch brothers said this about Bill Clinton.
Am I hearing you correctly? You think Bill Clinton was a better president than George W.
Well,
Bush?
in some ways. In other ways, I mean, he wasn't an exemplar.
Yeah.
But as far as the growth of government, the increase in spending on restrictive regulations, it was 2.5 times under Bush that it was under Clinton.
Wow. So actually, the government grew under Bush. Well, it's true. That was actually the military, the Department of Homeland Security. You also had more government spying into you with warrantless wiretapping and all the other provisions that were in powers given to the government by the Patriot Act. You also had the TSA. All of that is actually thanks to George W. Bush. And now you had Clinton, who actually deregulated the banks, signed Gramm-Leach-Bliley that actually repealed Glass-Steagall, and did massive welfare reform. So yeah, to Charles Koch, Bill Clinton, when he actually did those things, was actually better than, in the eyes of Charles Koch, than George W. Bush. I mean, remember, 2 unfunded wars put on a credit card. Now, Charles Koch says, oh yeah, I'm worried. I'm so worried about the deficit. I'm so worried. Right? Well, if you're worried about it, you would be worried about putting 2 unfunded wars onto a fucking credit card. Not paying for them. Leaving the Democrats to clean up the mess that you left. So that makes sense. I guess that makes sense. And I would actually agree that Clinton definitely was a better president than George W. Bush. And it's sort of a surprise that on this I agree with Charles Koch. Weird. But anyway, something that we may not agree with is asked if he would support Hillary Clinton. Let's listen to that response.
You couldn't see yourself supporting Hillary Clinton, could you?
Well, we would have to believe her actions would be quite different than her rhetoric. Let me put it that way.
Her rhetoric? You mean the rhetoric that she was kind of forced to adopt because of Bernie Sanders? Bernie Sanders, the issues that Bernie Sanders was actually there on first. The same rhetoric that doesn't really match her previous actions. Now remember, she at one point was also for welfare reform. That ended up impacting a lot of children, especially children of color. Or how about when she voted for the war in Iraq? Or when she was at the State Department and aggressively pushed fracking all over the developed world? How about when she thought that the TPP was the gold standard of trade until it wasn't? Or when she said that she was against Citizens United, but also says that the millions made from Wall Street and large multinational corporations, they don't influence her at all. Not at all. That's right, Citizens United needs to be overturned because big money influences people. That's the main argument. I've used that argument because it's true. It does influence people. Except, apparently in the case of Hillary Clinton, she's not influenced at all. Even though she's drowning in corporate money. She considers herself the exception to the rule. No, Citizens United, that's bad. We're going to overturn Citizens United. But, as far as me being influenced by the money, no, not at all. Not at all. Really. I find that hard to believe. Anyway, look, I understand that on some of these, you could say that she evolved, right? And I understand that people evolve, right? I'm in favor of evolving. But there's evolving, there's evolution, and then there's flat out flip-flopping on one issue or like 10, okay? Now, does her rhetoric during this primary match her previous actions? Remember, she's super strong on gun control now. Back in 2008, she was to the right of Barack Obama. They literally nicknamed her Annie Oakley. Does her rhetoric match her actions? Rarely does it. She governs center-right. Her rhetoric is center-left. Or just plain to the center. Now, if she wins the primary, I can almost guarantee that we will see her do an about-face pivot to the center so fast, your head will spin. And of course, pivoting to the center for her is actually pivoting to the right, to the center right. Now, as for this, sort of maybe kind of endorsement, Hillary Clinton tweeted this, quote, "Not interested in endorsements from people who deny climate science and try to make it harder for people to vote." Okay, hey, look, you know what? That's a good response. Now, of course, she's not going to like that endorsement. She's in a primary, and it would look pretty awful for her politically no matter what. And look, to be honest, on many policies, she's actually vastly different than the Koch brothers. Okay? But there are some issues, like her continued opposition to, for example, reinstate or craft a 21st century Glass-Steagall, or her previous positions on fracking and trade, and her continued defense of her Goldman Sachs speaking fees and money in politics. I mean, look, you take those positions into account, and she may have actually a few things in common, or more things in common with them than she would actually like to admit. And that, in my opinion, is super scary when we're talking about the Democratic front runner.